Dr. Christopher West here, the Theology, the Body Guy. In this episode, we're going to look at how our experience as human beings reveals that God really exists. Let's take a look. If you're new to this channel, we are all about exploring how our earthly bodies reveal heavenly divine mysteries. If you want clarity in a world of confusion when it comes to what it means to be human, especially what it means to be human as male and female, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel. And click the notification bell, share these videos, leave a comment. All of that compels YouTube to proclaim the good news of the gospel to the world. So we're picking up where we left off. We're in paragraphs 33 to 35 of the Catechism, and the heading we're looking at is called Ways of Coming to Know God. Let me read these three paragraphs. They're jam-packed, and then we'll unpack them. All right, paragraph 33. The human person, with his openness to truth and beauty, with his sense of moral goodness, his freedom, and the voice of conscience, with his longings for the infinite. We talk a lot about that on this channel, right? We have this ache, this hunger, this longing for something that this world can't satisfy. It's our longing, the Catechism says, for happiness. With all of these things, man questions himself about God's existence. In all of this, he discerns signs of his spiritual soul. And the Catechism says that the soul is the seed of eternity that each of us bears within ourselves. You cannot reduce this to the merely material. This has its origin only in God. Of course, the whole physical world has its origin in God. But we can, and sometimes scientists will say, we're merely what happens when sperm meets egg. But we believe when sperm meets egg, it's not just something physical. A spiritual soul that comes directly from God is infused in the body. All right, let's go on. Paragraph 34. The world and man attest that they contain within themselves neither their first principle nor their final end. First principle, where do we come from? Final end, where are we headed? We don't contain them in ourselves. We didn't bring ourselves into existence. We don't know immediately. We don't determine our destiny. We don't know it ourselves, right? It can only be revealed to us. We have inklings of it. We have hunches. But where do we come from? Where are we going? These are critical questions for our humanity. Rather, we participate in being itself. That's a capital B. We don't bring ourselves into being, right? But we participate in being itself with a capital B. That means God. This alone, being itself, is without origin or end, right? We have an origin, we have an end, but God doesn't have a beginning, doesn't have an end. Thus, in different ways, man can come to know that there exists a reality which is the first cause and final end of all things, a reality that everyone calls God. Okay, paragraph 35. Fear not, these are jam-packed paragraphs. We're going to unfold them. Again, with the help of John Paul II's Theology of the Body. The light that it illuminates our faith with is brilliant. Okay, paragraph 35. Man's faculties make him capable of coming to a knowledge of the existence of a personal God. We can know this with our own reason. But for man to be able to enter into real intimacy with God, God willed both to reveal himself to man and to give him the grace of being able to welcome this revelation in faith. The proofs of God's existence, however, can predispose one to faith and help one to see that faith is not opposed to reason. Sometimes people juxtapose faith and reason as if they're in conflict with one another, as if science and religion are incompatible. thinking with a Catholic mind, experiencing life with a Catholic heart, faith and reason are not incompatible. John Paul II says, faith and reason are like two wings that carry us aloft into the fullness of the truth. All right, so let's use John Paul II's Theology of the Body to help us unpack what's going on here. The human person, with his openness to truth, beauty, and his sense of moral goodness, his freedom and the voice of conscience, with his longings for the infinite and for happiness. These experiences of being human point to the fact of God's existence. How so? All right. A squirrel does not long for the truth, right? A squirrel is not offended when it's lied to, right? A squirrel has no awareness of moral goodness or moral evil, right? A squirrel doesn't enjoy getting hit by a car, but it has no awareness that there is something called good and evil. We as human beings do. Chickens do not look up at the stars and wonder what's out there. Chickens do not watch videos like this reflecting on what does it mean to be a chicken. Chickens do not build cathedrals or skyscrapers. And nor do chickens get into airplanes and fly them into skyscrapers. What's my point here? There is something different about the human person. We have this longing for truth, for moral goodness. We have a longing for the infinite. C.S. Lewis said it well. He said, if we find in ourselves longings that this world cannot satisfy, then it only makes logical sense that we're made for another world. What is that longing for beauty? And not just fleeting beauty. Have you ever found yourself sad when you encounter beauty? I live in the eastern part of the United States, and in the fall, we have magnificent colors in the trees. Bright orange, flaming red, brilliant yellows. And I have this kind of push-pull relationship with these colors, a kind of love-hate thing going on, because I'm drawn in. They pull me in with their beauty, but I want to push them away because I know in a few weeks those leaves are going to turn brown and fall to the ground. I want a beauty that lasts. I want a beauty that I can drink into myself unto infinite satisfaction. And there we discover the longing for God, the longing for the true, the good, the beautiful, and not just in some finite measure, but we want infinite truth, infinite goodness, infinite beauty. Reading John Paul II's Theology of the Body for the first time when I was in my early 20s, he told me that longing in my being for the true, the good, the beautiful, for infinite happiness, for infinite fulfillment, he told me it had a name. And I was stunned when I heard what he said. The church borrows her language from the Greeks here and calls that longing Eros. E-R-O-S. Now, we get the English word erotic from that Greek word Eros. And in my mind, when I was in my early 20s reading this Theology of the Body for the first time, I was confusing the word erotic or eros with another Greek word, porneia. We get the word pornography from that word, obviously, right? So in my mind, in my early 20s, the erotic realm was synonymous with the pornographic realm. And John Paul II radically changed my life when he said, no, 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 no. And I felt like he was talking right to me, like, Christopher, no, do not confuse eros with porneia. Eros, he said, is the upward impulse of the human spirit towards the true, the good, and the beautiful. In a word, Eros is our longing for God, right? When you look at the shape of human longing for the infinite, that's how the Catechism describes it here, we discover we are made to be filled with all the fullness of God. That's how St. Paul puts it in his letter to the Ephesians. We are called to be filled with all the fullness of God. And as we've shared in previous videos here, our bodies reveal this truth. A man's body has an outpouring, 500 million sperm in every outpouring. 500 million, right? It's still a finite number, but it approximates. It's an image of an infinite outpouring. And woman is designed to receive that quasi-infinite outpouring and conceive life within her. This culminates in the woman of the Bible, Mary, who receives not a finite seed, and again, 500 million is an approximation of the infinite, right? But there was a woman who opened her body not to a husband's seed, an earthly husband. There was a woman who opened her womb to the infinite outpouring of God the Father. And virginally, because she's opening to something infinite, eternal, invisible, it's a virginal opening, she conceived the fullness of God in her womb. Pregnant Mary is the icon of our calling as human beings to open to receive and conceive infinity, eternal life. Christ in you, St. Paul says, is your hope of glory. You are made for infinite glory. You are made for infinite ecstasy. You are made for infinite happiness. You are made to be filled with all the fullness of God. And here John Paul II says that the woman, Mary, is the model and archetype of the whole human race. She reveals to us what it means to be human, because to be human means to open that longing for the infinite to the infinite and to receive and conceive the infinite within. This is the theology of a woman's body, openness to the infinite. The theology of a man's body is that sign of the outpouring of the infinite. But in relation to God, all of us in this sense become bride, become feminine. And guys, I know, you don't like to picture yourself as a bride. But the purpose is to recognize that the creature, by nature, is receptive before God. If you're stumbling as a male, as I sometimes do, if you're stumbling on that bridal imagery, then let's pick a different image that gets to the same truth. God is the quarterback, and we are the wide receivers. God's the quarterback, we're the wide receivers. The point is to get us in that receptive posture. The posture that is called faith. Let's keep going here. Paragraph 34. The whole world, and we as human beings, we attest that we do not contain within ourselves the first principle or our final end. The principle that brought everything into being and the principle towards which everything is moving, everyone calls God. Where do I come from? Where am I going? Later on in the Catechism, we'll discover that these two questions, where do I come from? Where am I going? These are absolutely essential for orienting our humanity in the universe. And again, our bodies tell the story of where we come from and where we're going. How so? Everybody's got a belly button. Your belly button, listen to it. It has a message. Your body is not just biological, it's theological. But let's just start with the biology, right? Because biology reveals theology. Your belly button tells you biologically that you come from the union of your mother and father. But let's keep going, because you didn't just come from the union of your mother and father. You came from their parents' union and their parents' union and their parents' union and their parents' union and their parents' union, the whole way back to the beginning of time. And the universe itself came. Call it the Big Bang, call it whatever you want. It came from its origin, which is God. Your belly button, if you pay attention to its message, leads you the whole way back to your origin, which is God. And a few inches below your belly button, you discover your genitals. And your genitals are a call, in one way or another, very important qualification, in one way or another, your genitals are a call to pay it forward. You are a link in the chain that goes the whole way back to the beginning of time and the whole way forward to the end of time, where we encounter God. Now, I say in one way or another, our genitals call us to pay it forward, because not everyone is called biologically to be a father or a mother. But why do we call a priest father? Why do we call Mother Teresa Mother Teresa? These are not platitudes. These are not kind of pat you on the back, make you feel better because you didn't have your own children. No. Spiritual fatherhood, spiritual motherhood is even more real than physical fatherhood, physical motherhood. We are all called in one way or another to be father, to be mother. Every single man, by virtue of his being a man, by virtue of the theology of his body, is called in one way or another to be a father, to pay it forward. Every woman, by virtue of being a woman, is called in one way or another to be a mother and to pay it forward in that way, revealing to us, pointing the way forward towards our destiny. Really and truly, our bodies reveal the mystery of God, our origin, our end, where we come from, where we're headed, where we began, and what our ultimate destiny is. We have to pray, Lord, open my eyes so that I can see how my body reveals this story. And we conclude here, paragraph 35. Man's faculties make him capable of coming to a knowledge of the existence of a personal God. We can know by reason that God exists. But for man to be able to enter into real intimacy with God, and I want to underscore this, what does the theology of our bodies tell us? For this reason, a man will leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. Right? A man's body doesn't make sense by itself. A woman's body doesn't make sense by itself. But seen in light of each other, Lord, open our eyes. Open our eyes. We become blind to this in the modern world. Seen in light of each other, we see the call to profound intimacy, to profound communion. But the intimacy of man and woman is only a little glimmer of the call to intimacy with God, union with God. And so St. Paul, in a stroke of mystical genius, says that the one flesh union of man and woman is a great mystery, a mega mystery, he says in the Greek, a mega mystery that reveals our call to the marriage of Christ and the church. The Bible begins with the marriage of man and woman, but it ends with the marriage of Christ and the church. This is our destiny. And our bodies tell the story that we are called to real intimacy with God. This is a matter of divine revelation, right? It's not something we can just reason through. It's through the manner of revelation. St. Paul tells us his mission in life is to make plain to everyone the mystery that has been hidden in God. What is that mystery? That mystery is that we are called to holy communion with God. How does St. Paul make it plain? He says it's chiseled by God right in your body. This is a matter of divine revelation, that your body reveals the call to communion with God. God has willed both to reveal himself to man. Stunning. Pause right there. God has willed to reveal himself to us. This is Christianity, not just our search for God. Christianity is God saying, here's who I am. And how did he reveal who he is? Through the body. In the fullness of time, God sent his son born of a woman. It's always masculinity and femininity together that reveal the mystery. God willed both to reveal himself to man and to give him the grace of being able to welcome this revelation in faith. What is faith? Faith is that bridal posture of the human race, the openness of the human heart to God's gift, is how John Paul II describes it. Faith, in other words, is the openness of that longing for the infinite to the infinite. We could put it this way. Faith is Eros, opened to God's infinite outpouring, through which we conceive infinite life within us. My brothers and sisters, our bodies tell this story. And this is why the enemy is after our bodies. He wants to scramble this message that our bodies reveal so we don't see that our bodies reveal where we come from and where we're headed. I have so much more to share with you, so much more to unpack for you as to what it means to be human and how our bodies tell the story of our divine origin and our divine destiny. I encourage you to watch the other videos on this channel. I encourage you, if you want to go for some exclusive formation that we only provide to our patron community, check out the link below. Also, consider taking a course with me, either online or in person through the Theology of the Body Institute. The link to our course schedule is also below. Until next time, may our eyes continue to be opened to who we really are.